want to introduce our next panelist. We have Brian. I'm sorry. This panel is on touchless sales experience. So we have Brian Williams, Co-Chief Executive Officer of Financial Independence Group, FIG. Brian, you're also a longtime member of NAILBA, so I want to thank you for that. Joe Lynch. Joe is Vice President of Client Relationship Center of the Client Relationship Center at Western and Southern Financial Group. Welcome, Joe. And Laura Mancini, AVP Business Technology, also Western Southern Financial Group. Brian, Laura, Joe, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, we're all connected and it shows, right? Thank you for being in your office. Thank you for being in my home. Laura, looks like you're connected via phone or
yeah.
But we got you. We got you connected.
Here I am.
Okay. Joe, I want you to kick this off. We have a lot of advisors following NAILBA. Over 300,000 advisors interact with NAILBA in some way, shape, or form. What do you see advisors wanting in a digital sales experience to meet the client needs, the best possible client needs?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's changed. I'll talk a little bit that with the COVID. If you go prior to that, this is overgeneralization, but when you had new agents, they wanted more of a digital experience. Veteran agents kind of liked the way they had things, and so you lived in these two worlds as a producer of products. COVID changed that. You're seeing more and more of the veteran agents now wanting to or having to, I'm not sure which it is, adopt the technology. And what we're seeing is now that they're adopting it, they really like it, whether it's e-application, e-signature. And so here at Western and Southern, we were already on a mission to create like a one-stop shop for our just for our agents, whether they're captive or non-captive. We have both, so we're kind of unique in that manner. And this whole COVID experience has really caused us to focus even harder on that and drive forward. So what we want is where there's point solutions, that's fine, but we don't want the user to see that as different point solutions. It's one desktop they go to and they use it. So we're starting here at the home office and going to roll out enterprise platform, and then we will figure out for the different distribution channels how we expose that and how they can interact with it.
Thank you, Joe. Brian, I want to take the next question to you. Joe brings up a good point about, what the digital sales experience is. I mean, I mentioned you're a longtime member of NAILBA, very successful brokerage general agency, but candidly, Brian, you and I both know it. The advisor experience is very different than it was 20 years ago. Heck, the definition of BGA is different than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah. I'd love for you to weigh in on what you see advisors wanting in that in this new digital sales experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to you and Doug prior to us joining in on the panel, and Doug mentioned the whole single point of view, this new landscape that we're getting in. Many folks that are viewing insurance now as an asset class when they're planning with their clients. And I think this is a day that has been long overdue, that in the insurance industry, we've been looking at the value of the products, life products, annuity products, care products, any insurance product for that matter, knowing that they have a proper position for many clients in certain situations. And the respect level for these products now come full circle in many aspects of the broker-dealers and also the RIA. What's interesting about this is now the demand from the advisor base that we're working with that are duly licensed really want to ensure the efficiencies that are there, that the workflows are there, because at the end of the day, if they're going to use insurance as an asset class, if they're going to position it as a lever in a client's portfolio, they need to make sure that they can operate as such the way they do AUM, how they do a commissionable trade, whatever it may be. This has been the long struggle between the two industries that has existed for quite some time, and we've seen a lot of integration, a lot of headway made in integrations and user experience, from reporting, from billing, from performance reporting, all those good things. But now it's the great opportunity of really streamlining all this, providing a single experience, because at the end of the day, the clients are going to want a single view. They're not going to want to have to go to one place to view maybe their portfolio, their assets under management, and yet another subsystem to view, well, tell me what annuity policies that I have. What about my life insurance policies? If we really appreciate insurance as an asset class, that has to be a holistic view to the client, and it has to be a holistic workflow and view back to the advisor to make that whole process seamless. So we have seen that ask time and time again from an IMO VGA perspective. How can I get my data? How can I get my clients' data in a place where that I can use it in a meaningful way back to my clients, especially at the annual reviews? They want to use insurance as a lever, not just as a thing that's parked over here, and we'll talk about that later. It's truly an integrated conversation. So the technology components, as it's fast forwarded to where we are today, continue to evolve. But I think this community, this industry that we're talking today, really has to be on point and in tune to that ask and that demand. Because if we're not in the space where the advisors are meeting their customers, we're missing out. We need to meet them with the solutions, not expect them to meet us.
That's a great point, Brian. And I can't help but think, NAILBA's adopted action items of belong, connect, grow. I mean, belong in the industry, connect your systems, grow your business. I mean, it's a pretty simple, set of plays to run. But and again, it's making sure we're evolving as an industry. And sadly, it's taken a pandemic to make force us to evolve. Laura, first off, I want to thank you for joining us, because through all our rehearsals, I know you had some challenges connecting, and your patience is so very much appreciated. You look great. We got you connected.
Thanks.
So now I'm going to tap your experience. What have you seen from advisor needs as well as consumer expectations since this pandemic has begun?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that we've seen is the shift to wanting e-signature. We had a lot of usage of electronic applications, but we were still receiving paper apps with wet signatures coming in and not e-sign. So we saw a lot of our distribution community switch to needing that e-sign so that they didn't have to meet face-to-face with clients or mail paperwork back and forth. The other thing that we saw a shift in was not just on electronic new business coming in, but a request for service forms, more self-service, more, how can I do everything electronically in the life of a contract instead of just at the issuing of. So we've seen a lot of pickup in the e-app, but we are quickly trying to utilize the technologies that we have to get more of the service forms and the post-issue pieces available electronically, and then including the e-sign in those forms where it's needed.
Thank you, Laura. I want to bring a couple of questions together so I can get you guys all in here, as we had a little technical difficulty before. But Brian, you would be next after Laura, and I want to sort of combine two questions for you. I know you can handle it. We talked about what the Financial Independence Group has seen as far as change. Laura had mentioned a few of those changes. Joe had mentioned a few of those changes, but not just your observations on change, but what have you implemented? Some of the digital sales capabilities and training for your advisors. So two-part question, Brian. I'm sure you want to dovetail on some of Laura's thoughts, but also what have you implemented?
Yeah, absolutely. Echo Laura's observations and comments there, that the request to enhance the way we do business digitally has been expedited. The advisors need to be able to do things electronically because they can't meet with people, or some of them can, but they're afraid to. Clients are afraid. You got all these dynamics that no one anticipated that this pandemic would bring. So again, it's somewhat accelerated the way we're doing business and the opportunity that's there. What we have found absolutely fascinating, so we've had these resources in place: electronic submission, digital ways of taking in business, arguably some service forms, maybe not all, but we're getting there, right? So now we're to the place where you look, okay, well, I'm an advisor. How am I meeting my clients? Traditionally, there's been a lot of face-to-face meetings. Traditionally, there's been different marketing venues that client acquisitions actually take place. So, but with the limitations of seeing people, limitations of venues, no more than 25 people, whatever the state phase that you're in, it suddenly creates challenges for new clients as opposed to just your client base. So we worked pretty aggressively to train and introduce the advisors to some of the what seems like to be traditional, but it's relatively new in comparison to the lineage of our business, paying respect to that. Digital marketing, social media marketing, virtual events, very much like we're doing here. Many of advisors never sat with a client like this over a Zoom, over a WebEx, over any sort of virtual platform, and suddenly it's breaking that comfort zone, breaking that mold to where if they really want to be relevant, they really want to stay in business, then we're going to have to accelerate the way we're doing business. Once they get to that point, the beautiful thing about this is you see after a couple of tries, it becomes habit, you become comfortable with it. It has actually benefited some of our advisors more who've taken that bold step to implement this technology where they're not going backwards. This is actually going to be a layer of marketing, meeting strategies, client acquisition, and current client meetings that they'll incorporate going forward, which really helps them scale their business. If they're having an annual review, they can do it virtually as perhaps maybe figuring out schedules of people coming and going and that sort of thing, and new client acquisition. We're seeing actually virtual classes being taught now, financial education classes by our advisors that are making them more efficient, driving in more business than they have before. So we're really, if there's a silver lining that comes out of this pandemic, it is being able to see that we've been able to fast forward the adoption of technology that's been long overdue in space.
Brian, I can't help think of an example, and I hope our industry embraces that. But we all remember those restaurants that would give you, say, free ice cream on your birthday. Once you start giving that free ice cream, you can't take it away. Right. And that's a simple lesson for our industry, that once the advisors adjust to the new experience and they're able to continue to process business and candidly secure consumers, we're going to have to rely on everyone to maintain the process moving forward and make it more efficient. Yep. Laura and Joe, I have a question for each of you, and then we're gonna wrap it up just to be careful of our time. But Laura, the question that I have for you is, from the Western and Southern perspective, what benefits have you seen? And again, it's on the heels of that ice cream example. So what benefits have you seen come in now with your digital sales process?
Yeah, so with electronic business, we're able to essentially, if the business comes in good order, all signatures, we can issue business without anybody touching it. It can come into our systems via the file feeds that are available, process straight through systems and get into the admin systems, eliminating days of waiting and processing time, people keying. You don't have any of those mistakes. So we can definitely increase processing time. We have one of our life insurance products that does have connections to APIs. You can get underwriting results within 5 minutes because that is all being automated and then being submitted electronically. The time to issue is so much faster. And then, of course, more importantly, the time to commission also is so much faster if we don't have to actually have people touching every single app. So electronic is definitely the way to go if you want fast, quick, easy processing.
Laura, I'm going to actually use your answer there for Joe for the last question for this panel. Laura had shared some insight about, what's coming in as far as the end-to-end digital sales and experiences. But Joe, we put this symposium together around the words of digital and different sales experience, but more importantly, underwriting during this time. Laura talked about how, what the future holds for end-to-end digital sales. What insight can you share on a high level around automated underwriting and benefits?
Yeah, so Laura touched on that. We have products and platforms that have the automated underwriting built into them. Their adoption was not what we had seen before. I think Brian hit it right when he said, there's a silver lining in this. I don't think we're going to be able to put that genie back in the bottle, and more people are going to adopt it. So that's something we are looking at aggressively is where can we leverage big data more differently, as well is how can we design products around simplified underwriting. So they may not have as many bells and whistles, but we will be able to, within minutes, approve a policy and take payment right there. Whereas, you had the old underwriting process where if there was a paramed and a personal history statement, you were 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's going to change dramatically. And we are heavily focused on that and looking at how can we design process and products to meet that need that we know is coming.
Fantastic, Joe. And Laura, thank you for your connection. Brian, thank you for your connection and obviously your membership in NAILBA. Western Southern, your support of NAILBA and insurance technologies. You guys, I really wanted to share our appreciation for taking the time out of your day and offering some feedback to the over 550 people, actually 576 as of now, people registered. So it's this real-time data. It's fantastic, right? So thank you for your time, and I'm going to jump to the next panel.